I really am disturbed by how social media makes us forget that life has stages.
Mama magnified. Mama magnified.
Magnified family, what it do? Kalibita ke Lesego Mofokeng, also known as Mama Magni. Back here with another thought, another nugget, and I was having a conversation with a friend of mine during the week, and it really pondered on me at how, as we go about our lives, we actually forget, particularly this current generation, the core principles of life. And one of the principles that we cannot deny, that are probably even biblical, is the fact that life has stages. Everything comes in stages, right? And so when we forget that and we get lost in the pressures of not only just social media, but the times we're living in, it actually dilutes the true essence of your experiences of life. And I'm saying this because I was tying it back into also a lot of our mental health challenges are probably because we're not going back down to basics to actually realize that it is normal, guys, to be broke. It is normal to be in a phase where you're not where your friends and your peers are. It is normal to start over again if things did not work out, you know. It is normal to not be in a relationship when your other friends are in a relationship. So many things are normal but are deemed as you are far behind, you know. In this day and age, in this economy, it is normal to be unemployed. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm just saying when you look at the reality of where we are now, there will be a lot more people unemployed. It is okay for you to have your peers who've climbed the ladder far more than you, for instance. And remember, even just in our destinies, guys, there is no two people who are the same. Bophelo ha se group work. You are not going to be where your friend is. You are not going to be where your peers are. You are not going to be where, even if you grew up with someone, even if you're born in the same womb. I've got twin sisters. Even those two twin sisters have a different destiny. Things will happen at your pace, at a pace that God has ordained for you. Own lane, own pace, own race. I should actually even say own race, own lane, own pace. And I often always say that I'm glad this is one thing I've managed to grasp, to understand that although I can look outside for inspo or, you know, for encouragement, but I always go back to God to help me understand where I am in my journey and walk with Him. For bophelo ba ka. Whether it is my career, whether it is my finances, whether it is my motherhood, I understand the reality of my journey and where I am and tailor it for me. Because the truth is, there's certain things that we won't all be able to achieve or experience. We're not all going to get married. We're not all going to have children. We're not all going to live a certain lifestyle. Like, guys, I actually even firmly believe that for some people, you probably will end up living a life where God just helps you get by financially, because we're not all going to be multi-billionaires and millionaires. It's good to desire it, and I know often, especially when we are in a faith setup or in a Christian setup or in a church or in a fellowship with people that we believe God for big things with, it's good to believe God for those things, but don't despise and forget to ask God to tailor that plan for you. Is that God's will for your life? We're not all going to be parents. Unfortunately, that is the principle of life. We're not all going to be parents at certain ages. Some people will have their first child at 40 plus. Some people will have their first child after 30. Some people had children earlier, and now I have friends, for instance, who have children who are in matric and varsity because they had kids earlier. And I also often joke and I say, yo, what have we been doing with our lives? Jokingly so, but also it also goes back to remember and understand that it was not your journey to have kids at 21. Some of us had to have kids, I'm not going to say late, but what I deemed as late, as early as how early as I wanted children versus when I did have them. That is my own race, own lane, own pace. But social media and the times we're living in now put so much, I won't say it's that's what puts pressure, but I think even as a people we forget that bophelo bo tsamaya ka di stage, guys. And ha se group work, bophelo ha se group work. Just because your peer reached whatever, climbed Kilimanjaro and reached whatever milestone at whatever age, that's for them. That's not for you. So I really think we need to stop comparing ourselves. I really think we need to start accepting our own journeys for what it is and be content in where you are and just rather speak to God to understand where you are. I'll also compare it to parenting where no two kids are the same. I will not need the same. I need to ask God to give me wisdom to raise each child according to their own destiny. I need to pray to God to ask God to give me wisdom to raise each child according to what He has preordained for their lives, because their lives are not the same. And therefore they won't need the same approach to parenting them. So I really need to get to a place where we are all at peace with where we are in life, while we are still working and striving for better. But the peace element must come in understanding your own journey and your own pace and your own race and your own reality between you and your Creator, without letting what's happening around you taint the reality of your journey. That's not where God wants you to be. It's great to get inspo, but cut, copy, paste is not going to work in your life. Looking at what's happening in other people's life is not going to help you. Unfortunately, life is as such that some people won't get good paying jobs and live a certain lifestyle. As you know, some people, I know there's someone here on a YouTuber who says she's realized a pattern in her life that she always has to strive and work hard to get things in her life. That is the unfortunate part of life. We're not all gonna ride the life bicycle gautwana. For some people, they get it easy. Some people are graced differently. So the sooner we get to understand and accept and not compare, I think the better for each individual, because you're going to be able to live in the reality of where God has placed you and where God's taking you, not you relative to what's happening with others, not you relative to, oh, but this is what happened with others, why not me? That's why God said, I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb. Full stop. Not I knew you and the age you were living in and the pressures of the age you were living in before I formed you in your mother's womb. I think social media does play a big part. A lot of the things that we go through and the state of our mental health, I believe, is because of that. It is the pressures that we put ourselves in unnecessarily, and we internalize so much of it, and then we end up speaking bad to ourselves, and then we end up putting a lot more pressure to ourselves instead of just focusing on what is required for my own race, what is required for my own lane, what is required for my own pace, and be content with that, because we need you in your most genuine, purest form, in your unique form. We don't need you who's diluted in Bo Peter, Libo John, Libo Mang. And touching on the social media aspect, right? Like, guys, the reality of social media is the fact that social media is literally just a picture. It's 1 millisecond of the entire reality of someone's life. How do you gauge yourself on that with someone? And also remember, one thing I will admit to when it comes to social media, you decide the narrative that you want to put out there. You put out there what you decide want to be the narrative. But social media is not our entire life. In actual fact, social media is curated. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm saying it's packaged in a way, right? So that you can tell a certain story or narrative. And so you cannot benchmark yourself by what you see other people doing on social media. That is madness. Because when you look at the projections of the impact of social media, the projections that were put out is the fact that we are going to continue to have more and more depressed people. And this is one of the biggest problems, because we are living in an instant generation where everyone's lives are out there, right? And there's also just a notion of feeling like you know someone based off of social media. That could not be further from the truth. That is complete unfactual. The fact that you think you know someone from social media. And I think just the reality of it again is tying all of this together is the fact that we even forget the fact that, again, there are seasons in life for everyone. Summer, autumn, winter, spring. Conceived from birth, infancy, toddlerhood, childhood, teenagehood, adulthood, geriatric. Everything around us speaks to the principle of there being seasons in life, but we want to forget the core of that and just and just want to be a microwave generation just like that. No, guys. No. We need to go back to basics and remember that when the time is right, the Lord will make it happen, what is good for you in your season, in your time. But also from a social media perspective, come back down to earth. Social media is not a bad thing. Really, it is a good thing. It connects people, and that's why even with everything that I share, I always say, take from this what suits you. Nkaka pinch of salt. Even everything that I've shared here, take the part that suits you. If any also, take that, and take that which will work for you and that is tailored for your situation. And even then, there is no ways you can duplicate what someone has done and expect to get the same results. You're not the same people. You are two different people who are graced differently, who are in different situations. That's why even when you give someone advice, it really is just to say, this is my 2 cents worth. Go find your full worth between you and your God. I really hope I'm making sense. I really hope I'm just tying all of this together, because we just need to get it right, guys. Gradually, you will end up where you need to be. You will end up doing the right things alongside the right people. Patience really is key. And remember, even with patience, it's not just about the waiting. It really just is about the ability to maintain or keep a positive mindset and a positive outlook while you are working towards what you believe in or what is good for you in your life. I will actually wrap this up here, and I hope I'm making sense. As you guys know, usually these nuggets just come when the Holy Spirit drops something in me. I hope it is somewhat constructed in a way that it makes sense, but take from this what you will. Thank you, Magnified family.